Hello, everybody. This is Natasha Helfer, and we are coming at you with Symmetry Live. Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We try to do these about every Friday, not quite every Friday, but we try to have a panel discussion on a topic of interest, something that's going on in the news or research or a question we've gotten from one of our audience members. And so today we are excited to talk about kids in context of faith transition. So here at Symmetry, we work with a lot of people who are either rethinking kind of their relationship with their religion and are staying in their religious traditions, or are leaving their religious traditions. And so that oftentimes comes from an individual space, but within the context of a family setting. So whether or not your spouse or your kids feel the same way about these things than you do is oftentimes a conflict that comes up. So today we had a question about baptism, should we, in some traditions, kids get baptized like super early, like when they're babies. In other traditions, they're a little bit older, like 8 or 10 or 12, or at any point, if they want to rededicate themselves to Christ or things of that nature. So if you are a parent and you're not sure if you want to support those decisions, what do you do? Do you let the kid decide, or do you make those decisions for them? That's kind of the gist of our question today. Yes, am I saying that right? Anybody else want to think? Jenny, you were the one that got the question.
Yeah,
right?
The topic of, do we even, if depending on where the parents are in their own faith transition, do they even want to bring up the topic? Sometimes we think, oh, let's just not talk about this ever again, and we'll just go on our merry way after a faith transition. However, your kids might have their own ideas. They might be exposed to other ideas within their own families, extended families, their religious tradition, their friends, what they're doing, things that they hear around them, and they're going to be curious. And if they're curious, where do you want them to turn to? Right? Ideally, you want them to be able to talk to their parents about that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, are we creating an environment where kids even feel safe having these discussions with us, right? And I think that for the most part, in the last 100 years or so, the main parenting paradigm has been kind of like my way or the highway, right? or we kind of come with this idea that parents know best, mom knows best, dad knows best. And so it can be really anxiety producing, I think, for parents to have your kids maybe want to go in a different direction than you want them to go in. So I don't know, Tammy, if you're comfortable sharing your experience with your kiddos, or if I'm putting you totally on the spot, but I thought you had a great story that you told us earlier this morning.
No, absolutely. It's super interesting. I transitioned out of my faith, I think it was about a year or so before the policy change. I was LDS, transitioned out. And at that time, we kept the kids' names on the records of the church. And then after the LGBTQ policy came out, it was incredibly triggering for me. I have family members and best friends that are gay, that are in that community. So it was incredibly painful to watch them and what they had to go through. And so in that period, my spouse at the time and I decided to sit down with our children. And I think a part in the policy, it talked about, kids of people who are gay or lesbian could not be members of the church until 18, and that it was a safety precaution. And so we had decided, well, if they're looking out for the safety of those children, what makes that different as to the safety of my children, right? So we sat our kids down and told them that we were giving them a choice, whether that they could stay in the church or not. And of course, all four of them said, oh no, let's have our names removed. But recently, one of my daughters decided to be rebaptized back into the LDS church. And we ended up, I wasn't surprised by it because I felt the last 5 years I could see, you know, her support system, her friends, her family. She felt comfortable in that place. But of course, I had drawn the line, you know, I'm doing what's best. And when I found out she was getting baptized, and, you know, I knew that was coming, but then there was also a conversation that came up that kind of surprised me and put me in my place a little bit, to where she said, I was never given a choice, Mom. And I was like, what are you talking about? You know, and she goes, well, I never felt like I had the choice, and I just did it. And I realized how, like, I see what good it does for her in the boundaries and the rules. She's safe within that space. She's safe within knowing, you know, the obedience. Like, I know what I need to do, and I feel safe in that. Wherein I had gotten to a place, and my spouse and my other kids, there just wasn't the interest there, that we felt suffocated in the box, or that space, or in the boundaries with it. And I just had that aha moment that, wow, we are so individualized that we need to look at what's best for me. And even in the setting of our kids, like, and I think that's really hard, is to really find that balance of protecting our kids, but then also, are we going into a space, did I go into a space because of my experience and my triggerings that I felt like I needed to protect my children at that time, you know, in that time frame?
Well, I think that this is something that we see. I mean, if you're a believer in a religion, you typically take your kids to church, you know, and you expect them to do church things. And if you are a transitioner or a leaver of religion, then you expect your kids to kind of do what you think is best, like you're saying, kind of for you, Tammy. And we're really moving into some different parenting paradigms probably in the last like 20 years or so, where we are considering maybe, you know, there's some different ways than just mom or dad know best. And maybe kids sometimes have some insight into their own life, whether they're saying, I don't want to go to church, I hate church, or, you know, the parents are wanting them to go, or like, I really like church, why are we leaving? You know, like, I don't want to leave. So I don't know, Jana, what are your thoughts in regards to kind of this tension between parents having their ways and obviously usually wanting the best for their kids and acting out of good intentions, and yet making room for the kids' position?
Absolutely. I find this to be one of the most fraught conversations, and probably the most common one that I get when, especially when I have a mixed faith couple come into the office. You know, it's one of the top things on their mind is, what do we do with the kids? You know, and you know, I just like to honor everyone's best interest, right? In that, you know, when we're part of a religion, we can often feel the responsibility of teaching the right things, the good things to our kids. And it's something we take very, very seriously. It reflects on us, reflects on if we're a good parent, if we're giving our kids the best chance in life. And then if you have a transitioner in the mix as one of the parents, they are often having some scars from the way that they took in their religion, and the way it may have been harmful to them, that would cause them to want to walk away or change the way that they engage with that religious structure. So it can be really hard. So one of the models, one of the things I talk to people about is an indoctrination model versus an exploration model with our spirituality. A spiritual mentor of mine, Richard Rohr, says, if you would like people to be spiritually curious, don't answer their questions before they ask them. And I like that as kind of a guideline, not that we don't just teach our kids what we believe, but I do find that a more values-based model of what values do we want to share, what values do we want to instill in our children, and then how do we help them get curious around the exploration of those values. And I find that to be something that can bring a family together. And the research backs this up, that actually shared values are more important to a healthy family and healthy children than shared belief. So, but when we're used to sharing beliefs and something changes, that doesn't always enter our consciousness. So I like to talk about how can we get curious about what the children like, what they think, what they don't like, what present things to them and give them choices of their own reactions to what we're presenting to them.
And of course, this exploration model applies to everything in life, right? So not just spirituality, but it applies to what they want to do in school. What hobby do they want? What sport do they want to do? And moving on into your career and college choice and who your friends are going to be and girlfriends and boyfriends are going to be and all of that, right? So if you can promote this model from kind of the get-go, wherever you are in your faith transition, your kid will know that you are a safe space that they can come to and say, I got this thing going on and I'm a little bit confused, or I just want to kind of talk to you about this. And they can feel perfectly okay and safe that they can do that with you. That would be the ideal, right? We're all not perfect at this, of course, even us four. We're not very perfect at this, but we're learning as we go along, right?
Well, the beautiful thing, yeah. Oh, but the beautiful thing about curiosity is if we're honestly in the mindset of curiosity, how can we be in a space of judgment and criticism? Because curiosity, the mindset of curiosity puts us in a space of wanting to learn, wanting to explore. And so it takes us out of that space of the right or wrong, but more of, hey, what works for me or what doesn't work for me, and not putting judgment on that. So
same thing applies to your partners, your relationship too. If you can be in a space of curiosity with your partners as we grow and change over time too, also very awesome.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about a conversation with an 8-year-old, which might be different from a conversation, obviously, with a 14-year-old or 17-year-old. But I know in the Mormon tradition, you get baptized at 8, and having a conversation with a kiddo like, well, yeah, so some of your friends or your family members are getting baptized. Is that something that you want to do or not? What do you think about that? And really just kind of asking a lot of questions. A lot of times at 8, a lot of kids just kind of want to do what their friends are doing, right? And that sometimes can be hard for us in our 30s, 40s, or 50s, that we're not projecting our symbolism or our feeling about what it means to be baptized. And I think even being flexible with some of our meanings, like some people will be like, well, that means that we're forcing 8-year-olds to make lifelong decisions. That's one way to look at it. Mm-hmm. And yet you can also say, we're allowing for a ritual, a growing up ritual that our particular community seems to have tradition with. And can we just put the meaning on it being that our kid wants to make a good choice and be loving in their lives. And so you have some control over the stories you tell yourself about what this particular thing is going to mean or not. And if you're, and your kid's personality, some kids are really tender and like, they don't want to hurt mom's feelings or dad's feelings. So are you making sure that you're giving a lot of permission for the kid not to have to take care of your feelings, right? So can you say, mom is really into some of the church stuff, dad maybe isn't as much, but guess what? Regardless of whether or not you do this or not, we're going to be okay. Like, it's not your job to figure out if we're going to be okay. We really want to know what you want to do. And if you have that kind of a home environment, for your kiddos to make some of those decisions, or if you've both transitioned, like, and your kid, kind of like your daughter, Tammy, wants to rebaptize, are you able to sandwich any concerns with support? So in other words, like, I love you, you're an amazing kiddo. I totally want to support your decisions and your spiritual path. I'm going to say this once and then leave you alone.
Yeah.
My only concern might be this, and I just want you to, as your mom, I want to, be honest with you and share with you just one or two thoughts for you to consider. And I also recognize you're 18 and you're making some of your own decisions now. So if you if you rejoin this church, I'll be your number one fan and I will support your decision. So, it's not like you can't share your concerns,
Right.
or that, or that has to be 100% child centric, but how do you do that in a way that still allows for them to feel respected, for them to feel like they have some say over their own well-being, which is something we want them to get better at as they become adults, right? We want them to, and we want to engender enough self-trust that they can start feeling like, I know how to make good decisions for myself.
Well, and that's what happened because she did have the baptism about a month and a half ago, and that's where it's her journey, it's her life experience, and we were able to have that conversation, and for me to allow her to be able to listen, and to honor that path. It may not be right for me, but who says it's not right for her? So, and ultimately as a mother, I want my kids to be happy and to experiment and to explore. And down the road, if it doesn't work, she has options. She has seen that there are options. No matter what's being said or what comes from her, that there's options. And so, but it's hard as a parent, especially if it goes against how your feelings and your experience, but being able to honor her path and know, I'm a supporting role, and that's what it's all about ultimately. So
I would say a part of this. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was thinking, I'm thinking that parents might be concerned about the age, like this is too young to make such a big decision. And I would say to that, peer pressure, definitely real, not necessarily a bad thing. But it's also something you don't have to decide right away. It can be an ongoing, conversation that you're having, especially if your kiddo is kind of going, I don't know, maybe, yeah. I mean, these people say, yeah, and I don't know how I feel about it. You don't have to decide right away just because there's some sort of external event that's supposed to happen. It could be tabled for much, much later in life too.
And I would also like to just point out that no decision is permanent, right? So if you decide to go through with this and the child decides they don't want to have any of that, you can set your own boundaries with organizations and follow any course that child wants to have as they develop. So.
Well, I love it. I think that in general, just to recap, we've talked really about kind of taking a fairly child-centric approach. I mean, sometimes, it's not like all child-centric decisions are in their best well-being. I mean, if I let my kids be completely child-centric, we'd be doing Xbox 24/7 along with Doritos. But so there are, I think, sometimes when mother knows best. At the same time, with bigger things like this, I think getting curious, getting child-centric, giving some voice to the kid about what they feel is in their best interest can be really helpful and set up a good pattern. And I also love that so many of you talked about exploration and that decisions aren't final, and that, you can, I think we forget sometimes in this parenting world where, I think Jenny, you had talked earlier, it's not like society really lets you make a lot of mistakes. Like, oh, I want to change my career at 25. Well, that comes at a large cost, both educationally and professionally and all that. And so, so it's hard to go into that exploration model when you know that there are high costs, and yet the more we can let kids know that it's okay to make mistakes, it's okay to change your mind, it's okay that what was working for you at 14 isn't working for you at 21, right? Or whatever. And that there's more than one option just makes life, I think, a little more flexible and fun and lighthearted and less anxious, depressed, and all the other issues we're trying to avoid right now. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. I love you guys. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Have a great
you.
weekend. Everybody take care and enjoy your fall and whatever it is that you're doing. I hope everybody's having a great day.
Happy Friday.
Take care.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.